Hello, my name's Ruth McCutcheon. I just want to say thanks to the ISST for inviting me to speak today. I'm really pleased to be part of the World Schema Therapy event. And just to give you a bit of background, I'm a counselling psychologist working in London, UK, where I offer schema therapy for couples accreditation training and for also individual schema therapy accreditation. And I give therapy, provide therapy and supervision regularly in my practice in London. And today, what I really wanted to think about with you is this idea of how do we help couples who get into this incredibly painful dynamic together, where they're creating a lot of shame and judgment and blame towards each other. How do we help through a lens of compassion to bring some relief for that? So I'm going to be really doing two demonstrations today where I demonstrate how to bring compassion into our work with couples, but I just wanted to give a little bit of background and context. So I'll be looking briefly at the impact and challenge of an inner critic to a couple dynamic, a relationship, how we can use compassion as an antidote before kind of really leaning into what does that look like in terms of these two exercises where I put that into practice. And I'm particularly thinking today about couples where there's a strong sense of defectiveness that's getting into the dynamic. So what do we mean by sort of punitive inner critic? This is a state, an emotional state that people can get into where they're incredibly harsh in their judgment of themselves, incredibly mean in their self-talk. So they can typically sort of feel things towards themselves like, I'm broken, I'm just wrong inside, I'm useless, I'm worthless, the really, really, very painful things, messages that they can tell themselves. And typically, people will go into this experience or mode when their defectiveness schema has been triggered. So this is really a schema made up of beliefs, experiences and internalized memories of being a child and typically feeling criticized, shamed, disappointed in by either very early caregivers, can come from parents, can come from potentially bullies at school. And so to have the defectiveness schema is incredibly painful because it's really having a sense of there is nobody who can really meet my core needs of making me feel cherished, making me feel special, making me feel accepted inside. And so really for these children, when they grow up and go into relationships, it's not surprising that they can struggle in their adult relationships. And the other really problematic part is that we know in terms of schema chemistry that such individuals are very likely to be attracted to partners who will with whom they recreate something very familiar in terms of being drawn to partners who might criticize them and who might chastise them, put them down. And so it becomes incredibly painful then in adult life to relive these wounds. And often you get couples mirroring schemas. So defectiveness is happening on both sides of the dynamic. So what are we thinking about in the room here? Well, these are the sorts of couples that can really get into sort of putting each other down, complaining about the other one being the problem. They might use each other's vulnerability against each other as ammunition, and they're going on the attack and really having, describing a sense of almost some couples can feel like they're walking on eggshells together and feeling like they're going to be attacked, ambushed any moment. So really, really on high alert, feeling very unsafe in the dynamic together. And of course, the relationship science shows us that partners who do communicate in a critical or blaming way are very likely to separate. Gottman showed that his research showed that 85% of couples who are critical and show contempt are at risk of these having relationship breakdown. And by we're talking about with criticism here a sense of sort of global judgment about the other one, or like you're a rubbish father, or you're useless, or you never express your feelings, a lot of complaining and putting down. And then of course that can lead to a sort of simmering, deep set resentment of contempt, where couples can be really disrespectful of one another in their communication. So why is the inner critic, punitive inner critic mode particularly problematic in a couple dynamic? Well, it often remains hidden and unknown because a person has grown up, if they've got the defectiveness schema, to feel really shamed or wrong inside. They're going to feel very vulnerable about sharing. That's going to feel very risky. So often partners in a couple might well hold that back and keep it hidden, but the partner senses something's wrong. So that creates disconnection. As I said before, schema chemistry, early life wounds are being relived, which really has the power to derail couples quite profoundly. Another aspect of a challenge is partners who are in an inner critic mode can assume the other is making the same judgment of them, and that creates a real lack of safety, and particularly if they don't have insight. So the inner critic has huge potential to create misunderstanding and lack of safety. So the antidote, why is compassion important? So I guess a child who's grown up and feel really humiliated and uncomfortable in their skin and feel very exposed at the idea of being raw and vulnerable, for them to receive compassion, that's a real opportunity for a new experience, for change. So Kristin Neff, who has contributed a lot to compassion-focused therapy, her research shows that actually if inwardly we are able to give ourselves kindness, really in our most difficult moments, in moments of suffering, if we can bring ourselves that generosity, that really helps anchor us inside to feel much sturdier, to support our partners. So this is especially important, when there's a corrosive sort of breakdown of trust in a couple and an absence of goodwill for partners to inwardly be able to start to soothe themselves. But then, of course, that helps partners be much more generous. And another angle of compassion that's really important to bear in mind is actually that when we suffer, that's actually what really connects us as human beings. It's our suffering that brings us together. It's not to do with shame. It's actually quite the opposite. It's what's powerful about our humanness, and that's a great message for people with defectiveness, to know, to know that other human beings can feel deeply moved by their experiences. It's really a great message for couples to be able to hear this sort of idea of coming together with this very new idea, new way of wanting to invite warmth and care for the hurt part of themselves and each other. Yeah. So I guess schema therapy as an approach is particularly helpful in incorporating compassion into the healthy adult. Dave Edwards talks about caring beyond the self through compassion. So this is the idea that it encourages each partner to have a healthy adult that can feel anchored within and wise and turn towards suffering in the face of adversity, but at the same time addresses the mechanism of being able to turn that outwardly. And so because of it, it's a parts of self approach. Schema therapy is able to, in a very powerful way, we're able to use all sorts of techniques as schema therapy, couple therapists, to put the critic mode on a chair, to help the couple in the healthy adult selves ally against what the critic is doing to the two children in the room. It's also very de-shaming and powerful when we can say to one partner, well, you know how you're putting your partner down right now. Is that a bit of what you do to yourself? Because they can really, have that, then you can really see the suffering from both partners in that dynamic. So I guess with compassion, I'm about to go into the exercises just to give you a little bit of framework to think about it. It's really helping couples move from a place of feeling disliked and judged into a place of feeling very deeply cared for. But we really need to, in order to do that, help give couples a new language because they didn't necessarily grow up knowing any language of care. And so that it's really, helping couples to communicate in a very different way, which is what I'll be looking at in this next exercise. Um, and this helps couples get moving from a sort of threat space of their typical sort of toxic communication cycle into a much more receptive, soothing state, to be in their sort of parasympathetic nervous system, mirror one another, get the endorphins going. Yeah, to meet each other from a place of real deep validation and empathy. Okay, so I'm going to move into the exercise. Um, And I mean, just to say, this is inspired by Scott Kellogg's wonderful work on self-compassionate chair, self-compassion chair work, which again was inspired by Kristin Neff's idea that to feel deep empathy, um, it's important to understand inner pain. And in this, I've adapted this idea to a couple. So, and just to say, I've given my words here, but of course, you can really tailor this to your unique couple, depending on their presentation and dynamic, and finding the language and words and experiences. So what I'll do here is how I would typically go into the exercise now is I would be, first of all, setting it up as follows. I would ask the couple to sit opposite each other and really look into each other's eyes. And I would be saying to them, this is an exercise to really help you just remember your friendship together. Remember all the good intentions and kindness that you've really brought to this relationship over time that can sometimes become buried or overlooked, and it's about really honoring that and helping you really find it in the hard times. And then I would instruct couples to, as they're sitting opposite to each other, one to be the speaker and one to be the listener, and for the speaker to say the words after me. So for example, say I was talking to a couple, Jane and Robert, and Jane was going to be the speaker. It would go as follows. So I would start by saying, Robert, I see you and I know you deeply. And I would have Jane say to Robert, Robert, I know you and I see you deeply. So I'm going to walk you through the rest of the exercise, but it would go something like that. And it's sort of imagery, rescripting pace to keep it nice and slow. So Robert, I know your fears of failure and your self-doubts. I know your struggles and pain. I also know every moment of courage and every moment of love and each moment of tenderness and care. And knowing these things about you, I love you and cherish you just the way you are. Robert, when I look at our life together, I know we've gone through hard times. And I know that you might be hurting right now. When I think about the pain you've been through, it hurts me too. And I want to protect you. And while it hurts me to see you in pain, I also know that we can find courage together. I see that we try hard in the face of our struggles, and I'm proud of us for when we do that. Robert, something else. When you're harsh on yourself, that is hard for me to see. Robert, all people in relationships make mistakes. Everyone in the world struggles at times with their partners. All people say things they wish they could take back. And all people say things they later regret. When we make mistakes in our relationship, we can learn from these. We are just like all others, not alone. And when I look at you, I also know we're far more than our disagreements. When I look at you, I also know our relationship's precious, and knowing that makes me happy. Seeing the good things in our relationship gives me hope and makes me feel secure. In the days that follow, you will feel familiar doubts. In the days that follow, there may be doubts and fears, but I will be there with you. My voice will be there, and I want you to listen for my voice. I will always be there. And together, one step at a time, we will make this relationship strong. One step at a time, we will make this relationship stronger. And then just coming out of the exercise, I would say to the couple, close your eyes and see if you can feel these words of love. If you can take in a little bit, that's fine. If you can take in more, that's fine. To whatever degree you're able to, I would like you to open yourself up to these words. Okay, so this is a really beautiful exercise to do with couples. It's more in the sort of healthy adult phase of the work that we're thinking about here for today. But just being able to give them this moment to really step back and share that appreciation. It's it's very moving to see in the room. Okay, so that brings me towards the end of my presentation. I'm just going to do one more exercise as a closing exercise. And if you're watching for today and you'd like to give it a go, do feel free. And it's a guided imagery to help couples to bring compassion towards one another. And I often share with couples before I get going, look, it's, we can see how you get into this quite oppositional blaming dynamic. So maybe this is going to be helpful to shift you a bit more into your healthy adult. So I would invite a couple, and if you're out there and you'd like to try this, so just to close your eyes. And today we're going to be thinking about how to bring you into your compassionate sort of wise self. And however important it feels to be right and stay with anger, I'm just going to see if we can help you free up some space to be curious about how you're stuck. So as you close your eyes, in your mind's eye, I wonder if you could just first of all just tune into your body. Just notice how your breathing is. Breathe into any tightness or tension and feel whether there are any sensations there. Just notice those. Just let go. Now I'd like you to think of a moment with your partner where you felt very distant and tense. Maybe that walking on eggshells feeling, as if it's happening right now. Can you notice their facial expression? What they're saying? Notice what comes up. And now just pausing them and tuning into your feelings. Can you notice if you're expressing any blame, anger, or judgment? And just acknowledge this feeling with kindness, allowing it to be. Just with curiosity, there's no judgment here. Can you notice right now what you imagine your partner's thinking about you? I.e., they don't respect me, they don't care, they don't understand. Just consider what is the most hurtful part of this for you. And in this painful moment with your partner, imagine what you'd been hoping for in their response, wanting to happen. And just checking in with your body. What are you feeling right now? Is it still frustration, or maybe there could be a tiny bit of vulnerability from your little side? If so, can you imagine you see this part of you in your mind's eye? This vulnerable part of you who's in pain, and ask what he or she needs. Does it feel cared about, respected, understood, appreciated, or safe? Just really deeply accepted inside. And Now I'd like you to visualize your healthy, wise self who's hearing and feeling very moved by these painful feelings. Imagine this healthy part self puts their arm around your child self and says, I'm here, I love you. I want you to know I'm not going anywhere. Notice exactly what your child self needs. Is it more words of comfort or maybe a hug? Just allow and trust your feelings to give some comfort right now. And notice as you bring compassion, maybe you feel a letting go of your anger part and a generosity in your heart. Maybe you can imagine now that you look at your partner with curiosity, more open to seeing what's going on for them. However they are triggered, whatever you see in their anger or upset, see if you can notice their reaction and allow it to be and give it some space. What do you think they're feeling? What they might be hoping for in this moment and not getting? What might their unmet need be? Do they need respect, love, appreciation? Imagine and sense their vulnerability to see their little child. I'd like you now to imagine that from your healthy adult self, you give them your care. You really feel their needs. How might they respond if they felt loved and safe and understood? And as you sense that, maybe you can remember their whole self when they're not caught in fear and anger. Just take a moment to sense who you are when you're both free from blame. When that generosity just comes naturally, that openness, that sense of true belonging together. And whenever you're ready, I'd like you to open your eyes and come back into the room. So I guess today I've been through a couple of exercises there. I've put my contact details here. If you're curious about anything that I've gone over in the presentation today, would like to share ideas, please feel free to get in touch. And thanks for inviting me today.